When you look back at, older sets of irons, the thick faces, the solid body construction, and the lofts associated with those, everyone likes to throw out a 35-degree 7-iron, right?
Here we are, Matt. You ready to talk some evolution of irons?
I'm ready. Let's do
You're
it.
the product creator for TaylorMade, one of the product creators from TaylorMade, specializing in irons. So I figured, good talk. How do we get to this thing? Stealth iron. Go back in time a little bit. I've got an R9. What else is up there?
Got a PSI, an
R7,
M5.
M5. Yeah, those are some old stuff. Talk about the evolution of how these irons have progressed all the way along to where you're at now.
I mean, it depends really where do you want to start. You go all the way back to the days of, single piece, really forged or cast construction. Obviously you had the blades, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you had the dawn of the cavity back iron with a lot of perimeter weighting. Obviously that was influential for the category and really just changed the way people looked at iron design. And of course we have models that flow through there and really where it starts to get interesting, because the majority of it for a long time was where are we going to position mass, and it's a single piece construction, and a lot of it was forged, some of it's cast. Casting allowed you to really move more weight around than a forging, which was a nice step forward for golfers. But then you get into this age of, let's look at how thin we can make the face. Let's look at some different thicknesses that we can use in specific spots. And then you start to bring in technologies like speed pockets. And that allows the face to get more flexible. When you look at mass-saving technologies like 360 undercuts and fluted hosels, and it allows you to drive that center of gravity really, really low. And then you get into concepts like the speed bridge, which we could talk about, and that really supports the face in a different way that allows it to flex more than it ever had before. And now you get to where we are today, which is the culmination of all those various technologies that we've hit on over the years with the cap back construction. This one has toe wrap. This is new for stealth. And it has everything that we just talked about from a game improvement perspective. And now another interesting piece, right? You got more categories. You got game improvement. You got player's distance. You got player's irons. So really, the amount of technology is sky's the limit. Whatever you want as a player, and you can go as classic as you want all the way back to a blade.
Yep. So we get let's start here then with an R9.
Okay.
So this is, you laugh a little bit.
Well, I laugh because my age when this came out.
Yeah, geez, way to make me feel old. So yeah, that's mine. Thanks. So there's an R9. That's got a little bit of an undercut to it, but hitting that compared to anything that's modern, and by modern I mean like the last 2 or 3 years, those are like 2-3 clubs shorter than some of them.
Yep.
The ball speed you're getting out of that's just slow. So you're attributing that mainly to the face thickness?
Face thickness, lack of flexibility. Right. So like if you, even just what you're comparing there, it's a PSI.
Yeah.
So you're right, this one's got a little bit of an undercut here, and what that does is it allows you to get a constant thickness face. You want to try to just really expand your unsupported face area, but this is still a pretty thick face. Notice the badge is bonded onto the back. That's different from where we are now. But you've got some good perimeter weighting, but this is a rigid structure. Yeah. And then you come over here to what you got in your hand with the PSI, which this was a great example of a lot of culmination of technology. So at this point, we have inverted cone technology been established that came through in our 7 irons. This has face slots. We no longer have those, but that was a really interesting idea that did allow us to really spread that COR area out in a great way at the time. Again, it all comes back to flexibility. Flexibility equals ball speed and forgiveness. And that's what the speed pocket does. This is like TaylorMade zipper. It's like our patented technology. It's like our birthright. You find in anything of ours that has really speed or performance built into it from an iron perspective, like walk you through how that works. But this is really a huge flexibility generator, protects ball speed when you miss low on the face. Can't stress enough how just important that piece of technology is. And then of course, this guy has a damper in the back. We've evolved that with where we are today, but that's what allows you to get really great feel, even though you have all this flexibility, because flexibility is detrimental to sound and feel. It's great for performance, but you get more of that stereotypical clack that comes to game improvement irons. And we've done a lot to fight that. Speed bridge was part of that. The echo damping system in the irons today was also part of that. So it's really wherever you want to go from here.
Yeah, I think the gist is you just keep evolving and making better stuff. But you've got the cutaway of, what iron is that? Is this
P790, maybe you've heard that.
Yeah, go through. Yeah, I've heard of the P790. Go through that cutaway and show everybody just piece by piece, I think, what you're into now and how much the tech's evolved.
Sure.
Just a thick, face that really didn't have a lot of tech behind it.
And I think one of the things I love about P790, so we're going to start on the outside if we can.
Yeah.
Think back to, you know, where irons were in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, and they're the single piece construction. This, from a distance 20 feet away, it looks like that type of iron, right? You'd have to have a keen eye to maybe say like, oh, that's got some performance in there, or it's not, like, it's kind of blade-esque.
It just doesn't look hollow bodied.
No,
absolutely.
It just screams this timeless elegance. But inside, there is a ton of technology and performance that allows you to get really, I mean, more performance out of a P790 for sure than where you would have been with game improvement irons in the day with an R9 or even a PSI, which is really not that old. So on the outside, it's beautiful. You can see the one hint of technology here is the toe screw. This is really that calling card that this has speed foam inside. Now it's speed foam air. I'm going to walk you through this construction here with what we call a cutaway. So it's got the different pieces of the iron head sort of dissected. We'll start with the face. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. So this is hollow inside. So when I pull the face off, you can see that there's some other stuff going on here with speed foam air. I'm going to come back to that. But this face insert right here, it's extremely thin. So this is forged 4140, and this is a forged component of the club head. Because it's extremely thin, just 1.5 millimeters here, it allows the face to, again, flex a lot of impact. And you can see, it might be kind of hard on the camera here, but you can see and you can feel that this face is thicker at the center than it is on the exterior. And actually, in P790, we use what's called a progressive inverted cone, and we shift that thickness further towards the toe in the long irons to help minimize the miss to the right that golfers so commonly struggle with. So, forged 4140 face, extremely thin. This creates all the flexibility in the club head, and that also pairs with the speed pocket. I mentioned that before. I'll point to that here on the bottom now. You can see the difference on these ones, right? It's got the black polymer filled in. We want this club to be watertight, of course, but when you take that polymer away, you can really see how the face is disconnected from the sole of the club head that allows the entire face to flex differently and protect ball speed on low face strikes specifically, expand your sweet spot so that you get the consistency associated with that. That's one of the things that we always push as well. Like anytime you're building a performance iron, it's naturally going to be faster at center face than it will be on the edges, but we work really, really hard to expand that sweet spot as much as we can so you hit your number consistently at a higher performance level. So again, we'll take this face back off. We talk about what's inside this. This is speed foam air. This is injected through that toe screw that I showed you over here. And what this speed foam does is it really fills the cavity inside this hollow construction, allowing us to push the limits of speed from a face perspective, but keep that really quality forged iron feel. This is like the secret weapon of P790 in terms of really giving you the blend of not just performance, but great feel. And of course, the final aspect of that tripod is the design language. And then again, behind the speed foam here, you see there's tungsten weighting. This is positioned lower and further out in the toe than it has been in the past. This is what drives that center of gravity down in the club head that gives you good launch conditions. It takes spin off the ball, which is going to give you more distance as well. Again, you want to monitor your spin rates, of course, but this being in the toe gives you high MOI and stability so that when you do, when those mishits inevitably happen, put that in the right way, you get some stability this direction as well, which is going to protect your ball speed. So that's really like all the technology that's built into a 790. A lot going on inside a really sleek design. And of course, as you take that and you go to the next level on Stealth, it's a lot of the same design concepts, but we're really pushing it even further because the premium on that one is really providing as much distance as possible. This is that tripod of design, performance, and feel.
So this is a little point ahead of how important it is to really get fit for these. You've got these irons, you have a Stealth irons, which are really just serious rocket launchers for sure, plus all your forged products. Should somebody, for example, who shoots 95 be playing that 790, even though it's got all that cool tech in it?
95, you know, just to throw out a number, it depends on where you're losing your strokes.
Yeah, right,
so
right.
A little bit of a caveat, maybe you can't putt. Maybe you lose them off the tee box like I do. 95 for me is kind of on that cusp. If I'm going to generalize a 95 player, just because there is so much performance in this relative to where game improvement irons were. Right. And if you love the way it looks and feels, like I'm not going to necessarily want to rip it out of the hands of a 95 shooter. The lofts may also work a little bit better for them as well. So it's some things to consider, but that's on the cusp. If you're north of 95, I would I would steer you towards the more game improvement stuff like Stealth, and then you know that's your aspiration to graduate into a 790.
And that is a super forgiving iron for what it is too, that 790. So kudos to you on the tech that's built in there. The speed foam, you got a few different feels in there. To me, that feels almost like a sponge as much as it does a foam. Usually think of a foam as a little more dense, but that feels super light. So I can imagine that's helping with ball speed too, if you can fill that speed foam in for your speed slot. That's pretty cool. Nice job.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, there's a whole team of us. I'm just the one talking with you guys, but it's a lot of people pour their blood, sweat, and tears into these products.
Okay, so talk about the Stealth then and the evolution of that over time as well. I know that's a little different than this R9 iron that we were looking at earlier.
Well, extremely different. And a lot of the differences here are going to come again back down to just building in flexibility into that club head, because that's what's going to really drive the performance inside these. So a lot of what we talked about with 790, we've incorporated into our game improvement irons. It's really interesting how the two kind of like play off each other. But the new Stealth iron, it has cap back construction with the toe wrap technology. This is a mass saving technology to move center of gravity down in the club head. You're repositioning mass from the toe and you're putting it down low and in the sole. Underneath here, inside this club head, you also have a rib structure in this top line designed to pull as much weight from high in the club head, again, reposition it down low, but give you that forged iron-like feel. So it's a hollow construction. Inside this one, however, is our echo damping system. That's a unique polymer blend designed specifically to damp out vibrations that happen at impact. Those vibrations are what create the sound that you hear when you hit the ball, and that sound that you hear is actually what you interpret as feel as a golfer, which is really interesting. If you ever want to have some fun at a driving range, put some earplugs in, hit a range ball, hit a cast urethane soft like tour ball or any other ball, and you're going to have a really hard time picking up the differences.
Yeah, can't tell.
But it's a fun exercise. Anyway, we digress. Inside here, the echo damping system designed to damp out those vibrations very quickly, uses multiple contact points across the face from the heel all the way to the toe to give you that forged iron-like feel. Even though this is going to be our fastest, longest iron in the TaylorMade lineup, it's going to be our most forgiving. And now, again, a position that we've really strived to unlock for us is the design language of this. You'll notice compared to past game improvement products and a lot of other game improvement products in the marketplace, this is more monochromatic, a little bit more ambitious in the design language here. And again, I think it really just comes down to this thought process of where, for me, it doesn't matter what your skill level is, you want to be proud of what you have in the bag, the way it looks. It projects who you are as a player. There's a lot of personality and identification tied to what your bag setup is. That's why we offer our own head covers and all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to make something that looks as good as it plays. It's a performance leader, and now I think visually we've done the same. Very proud of this.
Monochromatic. What else did you call that?
This one?
Yeah. Monochromatic.
I don't know. Sometimes I just
I was right there. I had it. AKA cool badging. Looks nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, you should be proud of that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so then you've built these to basically, to sum up a lot of what you said, not all of it, but a lot of it, you're building these to have some high ball speeds, more like a driver in a traditional sense than an iron. So with that comes the caveat of loft, and everybody wants to know about what lofted iron should I play, and are these strong lofted irons going to help or hurt my game? So talk about the progression of that relative to where you're at now with Stealth.
That's a really good conversation. It's one that we can get really in depth in, or we can stay high level.
In depth.
Okay, so when you look back at older sets of irons, the thick faces, the solid body construction, the lofts associated with those, everyone likes to throw out a 35-degree 7 iron, right? You don't have any flexibility in that face, meaning you don't, the COR level, COR is a measurement of how much energy is transferred into the ball, is going to be significantly lower. As that COR level increases, what happens is your launch naturally wants to go up. So you're going to launch loft for loft, high COR versus low, you're going to launch the ball higher. In addition, you're going to get more ball speed. When you get more ball speed, you're going to achieve higher peak heights for your, again, loft for loft, because the ball's going further. So when that happens, you're essentially going to be seeing a higher shot, and you're going to, now your descent angle is going to get steeper as your peak height is higher. So lofts have to change over time with just COR. Now bring into the conversation all of the mass saving technology that I was just rattling off, 360 undercuts, hosel flutes, tungsten weighting, all of these things, toe wrap. When you put the CG lower in the head, what happens is the launch naturally wants to go up. So again, we're driving launch higher and higher and higher with all these different technologies. So you have to make the lofts stronger in order to be able to maintain an ideal launch trajectory window. Just like you can hit a ball too low, you can hit a ball too high, and you're going to leave performance on the table. And the name of the game with like a Stealth or a 790 is to provide as much performance to golfers as possible without sacrificing playability. And that's what we do. We monitor what that window is going to be for a larger population of golfer, right? Because it's off the rack. Now what you should be doing is getting custom fit. And part of that custom fitting is going to include a shaft, which will change the way you present a head and your dynamic loft. Of course, lie angles for left, right. But loft should be considered on an iron as well. And that's something that we have for the tools for TaylorMade specifically. You can get fit for loft on the fly as opposed to just bending and checking. But the moral of that story is it really needs to be incorporated as part of the conversation, because your swing speed will dictate what your ideal launch conditions are.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the features I enjoy the most about the Stealth iron, is being able to add 2 degrees of loft and let somebody try that and show the difference, maybe as much in the peak height, getting that closer to say 30 yards or so for everybody, and having the angle of descent be more than 45 degrees to hit a ball into the ground and into a green would be really helpful. So I like the customization that you've done there, and you nailed it. You've got to get fit for these to know which loft really is going to fit for you, can be a good fit for you. Because it might be those off the rack irons that are just stock Stealth lofts are too strong. But I wouldn't be shocked if 75-80% of people who grab that Stealth iron are perfectly fine playing that that stock loft of a 7 iron. It kind of gets you down to a little bit more. We're talking about irons and the evolution there, but using a 4 iron in that Stealth iron, or grabbing one of those UDIs or the fairway hybrid there, that would be a really nice conversation to have too on what you need to fill out the top end of the bag.
Sure. Yeah, the top end of the bag is, I mean, I'd be interested to get your take on it, because you do so much more fitting than I am ever honestly exposed to. But for me, that area of the bag specifically, we're talking about the area from the longest iron you're comfortable hitting to the driver or the fairway wood that you refuse to give up.
Right.
It's the area that's given the least attention, but ironically has the most options for golfers.
Yeah.
Weak lofted fairways, rescues, utility irons, long irons from your set. And there are all sorts. It all just comes down to what what trajectory, what number. You got to be honest with yourself in terms of what shot you're trying to hit, what number you want to hit specifically, and then what you feel comfortable, looking at.
Yeah, and we can help a ton in a fitting of which loft you want to actually stop at based on your club head speed's a pretty good indicator of that. But yeah, I like the idea of a 4 iron in your Stealth if you hit a shot off the tee, just as much as I like those hybrids that you just came out with too. So plenty of cool options. You can mess around with the lofts all you want. That's how the evolution of these irons has changed so much, from just a club that's meant to be super forgiving but not concerned about ball speed, because that's where we were back in those R9 days, or going back even further, all the way now to there's such an advantage to use more loft around the golf course. So if you're more lofted 8, 7, 9 iron launch like drivers in some regards, you can just use those in more forgiving places, or more places where you can be reckless. So driving a ball into the rough isn't as penalizing when you have more loft.
Yep.
That's really the advantage of why these need to go farther. So great job on making rocket launchers here that go really far. They'll still stop on the greens, and the evolution here has changed quite a bit. That's probably all you're doing, isn't it? Like this thing, that garbagey R9 compared to the Stealth now? You're taking all the credit for that, right?
No, I would never take all the credit again.
Matt wants all the credit.
I can't stress how much the team behind me from an industrial design and the engineering standpoint, how much energy and passion goes into all of these products.
That's all Matt's doing. But no, thanks for watching the evolution of some irons here. We're going to do the same thing with some drivers and still talk some more product stuff. If you're interested in the new hybrids that TaylorMade's got, we'll discuss that here in just a minute too. Thanks for watching.